So what actually is true? Well, the first part is that setting up a business is actually really easy. Some of you have set up the business. Some of you have had it, open for a year or more. I see a lot of next level practice people are joining us as well. There's really three kind of major areas of setting up a business. The basic logistics. So in most states, that's an LLC or a PLLC. In California, that's not true. There, they want an S corp. Every state has their things that they want for your therapist. You've got your bank accounts you need to set up. You've got to have your linking between things to keep track of your bank accounts. Probably some bookkeeping, like a QuickBooks, like the $9 a month kind of thing. You want to have a website. So those logistical things. It's more just knowing how to do it and in what order to do it. Next is, how do people know that you actually exist? So the basic marketing. There's some very simple techniques around networking, around marketing, around what really sticks in people's minds. And so that's one of the things that is really fairly simple if you're talking to the right people. And then the clinical side, you're doing good clinical work. Just because we're running a business doesn't mean that we don't keep doing trainings and CEs and all of that as well. So truth number two is that a community of people is going to help you grow so much faster. You'll get support from other people, because if you have some sort of cohort or people locally that are an accountability partner or groups like Next Level Practice, you'll have that support amongst other people. You'll also get that knowledge base. You're not starting from scratch. You may feel like you're starting from scratch, but there's thousands of private practices out there. This car has been built before. You don't have to start from scratch from zero knowledge. You can talk to people and say, okay, what EHR do you use? Okay, we use Therapy Notes, which I don't want to build my website. Okay, do you use Brighter Vision or have it built by someone else? Like, what is it that you did? And then also that accountability. We all are terribly busy, whether you have kids or whether you have a partner or whether you're alone or whatever. You have a lot of stuff on your plate. There are tons of things that every day are competing for your time, your energy, your brain, just your ability to pay attention. And so having a community in some way helps you then be able to have that accountability to get more done. Third, so many people have done this before. I've mentioned this before. And, when I see folks struggling in private practice, which we see every single day. So on our website, we have a little pop-up, and Jess is helping people all day long, answer questions, point them to podcasts and blog posts and all sorts of different things. And they're just starting from scratch, not really realizing there's a lot of people that have done this before. And so being around those people that have done it before. I want to give a case example. Brian Cooper is someone that's been so active within Next Level Practice. And it's really funny. He lives in the Detroit area and I live up in Traverse City in Michigan. And even just a few weeks ago, he let me know that his family was going to be in Traverse City for the weekend and wanted to know if we could meet up. And I was like, totally, any other weekend except I'm going to be in Detroit. And so we literally swapped cities. And it was just like, I want to meet this person because we get to know each other in Next Level Practice. And I reached out to Brian because he's someone that shows up for himself. He's there, he's doing the work, and he went from like hardly having a practice to just exploding. And it's just such a classic example of what people are doing in Next Level Practice. And he said, when I started Next Level Practice, I felt overwhelmed at the vast idea of starting a private practice of my own, but I was determined to equip myself as best I could to succeed. The Next Level Practice community, resources, and accountability helped me to feel prepared, eased my overwhelmed feelings, and started my practice off on the right foot. I'm so glad I decided to invest in myself and my practice through NLP. I'm happy to say that in just 7 months, I've quadrupled my average weekly session count, and I'm coming off my most profitable month to date. I highly recommend Next Level Practice because it not only offers an abundance of support and resources for every level of your practice journey, but it also provides the needed community and accountability to keep you moving forward and going strong as a practice owner and entrepreneur. I mean, like, whether you join NLP or not, like, to me, it's important to say, well, what are the key elements that help people like Brian to succeed that we can just apply to anyone? Having community, having resources, having accountability, knowing what to do next, having a proven process that you can follow. So there's 3 things that you really need when we talk about your first year of private practices. The first is access to knowledge that's organized in some way. Second is that community of people that are going to support you, that are based on that proven track record. And third, the tools of the trade to actually implement what you're learning and what the people are supporting you in. So this is a slide that, and we're going to send this recording out to you, but I would say if you have your phone, like, take a picture of this. This is just a quick crash course in your first year of practice. And I'm going to walk through each of these elements and take our time. And at the end, we're going to have tons of Q&A. My goal is that, we'll have a ton of Q&A so that you can say, okay, here's where I'm at. What would you do, Joe? So that you can really make sure that you leave here knowing here's your next first steps. So if we look at your quarter one, so that far left column, quarter one would be your months up through your third month. In this time, we're going to want to get those logistics really going. So getting your website up really early on is important because for one, Google, the longer your website is out there, that really helps you rank higher over time. And so you want to get that out. I would say it's as essential as a business card. So if you don't know your name, let's work backwards from your website. You probably need to have a name. I highly recommend not just using your own name. We have a whole script and way to walk through that over on practiceofthepractice.com. Just type in how to name your practice and that'll walk you through that. We have a bunch of resources if you haven't figured that out. You want to get your website going. You want to get your marketing going. And so your marketing, what's that look like? Having probably it could be business cards, but more importantly, just meeting people. You can go on to Psychology Today and find people that are doing a similar niche as you. And you could also go on there and find people that are in an associated niche. So say you're a play therapist. You may want to reach out to couples counselors and say, hey, I imagine the couples that come to see you, those that have kids, those kids might want some therapy also. And I'm a play therapist. So finding people that could refer to you, getting that logistical flow. So thinking about that user experience. So I'm a person that, the night before I call therapy, like, what do I write in my journal? What's that breaking point for me right before I decide to pick up the phone? Is it my kids saying, I'm just so sad at school, I don't have any friends? Okay. So then thinking about, well, how do I market around that? Did your kid just say that they're so sad in school and they don't have friends? I would love to help. So then from there, what we want to do is we want to then say, well, what's that flow? So they Google you, they Google, counselor or kids counselor, Traverse City, Michigan. Then going into, and they go to your website, and is it very clear? How do they contact you? How do they schedule? Are they going to have to call you, or do you have some sort of digital schedule that they can just schedule a phone call, or they can schedule that intake appointment? Do you answer their questions of, do they take insurance? Is it private pay? How does that work? Also, in that first quarter, you're going to want to get some blogging going. I recommend that you try to get at least half a year of blogs done as soon as possible. So if you can get 26 blog posts up and have them start to link to each other, you are set from a blogging perspective for a while. So just thinking about it, like if you did a series on anxiety, okay, what are 5 different blogs you could do on anxiety? Well, you could have one that's about, changes in the seasons. You could have one that's like anxiety at work, anxiety with couples, 5, treatments for anxiety other than prescription. So thinking through maybe a series and doing a handful of those, just writing and writing and writing, that's going to help you start to rank in Google very quickly. You're also going to want to sketch out who is your ideal client, not your idea client, your ideal client. So little misspelling there. Sorry. I just went through the slides this morning to make sure there was nothing, but there's always something. So ideal client, who's your ideal client? So where do they live? Give them a name, give them an age. What is it that they're struggling with? What are their pains? What are their successes? Are you going to be insurance-based or private pay? And get those basic systems. And then networking. Networking isn't you going to some networking event and throwing your business cards. It's just meeting new friends, meeting new people in the community that are doing something similar. Oftentimes, introverts are better at networking than extroverts because they just are good at small group situations. They just grab coffee with people, find that naturopath, find that yoga teacher, find that pastor, take them out for a coffee or a kombucha and say, hey, I'd love to just learn about what you do. I'm new to the private practice world and just trying to meet people. So, by the second or third month, typically we see, 10 clients per week. I say $90 a session just because I would much rather give you numbers that are so conservative that you can blow them out of the water rather than you see numbers and say, Joe, that's so unrealistic. And so if we just say $90 a session, I would say most of you could easily start at $125 a session, but to account for other markets, want to say that. So within that second and third month, you'd be at $7,200 for the year so far. Then if we look at quarters 2 and 3, so months 4 through 9, you're going to want to amp up that networking, build more of the branding. If you don't have a logo yet, definitely have a logo, and then really looking at niche specific talks. So what's that look like? So if you help kids, connect with charter schools, connect with private schools, connect with PTO in the public schools, find places where you can give niche specific talks. Sometimes people feel like they have to have thousands of Instagram followers and they have to have all these people following them. Think about what it actually takes to have a full practice. You're talking 20 to 30 sessions a week, which means maybe 40 people have reached out to you. So you don't need that many. I mean, if you get in at one school and get a good reputation and that first person comes, they're going to talk about how you're a great therapist. If someone, comes in for couples counseling and it blows their mind, what's going to happen is they're going to tell their friends. I had a walking group once. It was all of these wives of doctors, and one of the wives, she and her husband came to see me, and within the year, every single couple within that walking group was seeing me in therapy. I couldn't tell them that, and they all talked amongst each other, but I obviously couldn't confirm or deny that. But this whole walking group, they all ended up seeing me. So sometimes you get into these groups that spread the word about your work.